So there's one issue that's come up repeatedly on the doorstep when I've been out and about with residents, and that's immigration, specifically asylum seekers. Now, this is a very controversial subject, naturally. People are very passionate about it from all sides. I think an issue like this, you need to begin with compassion for the individuals concerned. We should always be caring and do what we can for people who need our help from a humanitarian perspective, whether they be from abroad or from Swindon. I think we should also start from an evidence basis. We should acknowledge the passion people have for it, but that's no way to base policy. There's no way on which to base decisions. We should know what the true facts are before we can chart a way forward. So knowing that, I wrote to the council some time ago when I asked for the data. I simply asked them, how many asylum seekers are there in Swindon? And they responded, we don't know. We don't store that data. It's not our responsibility. The first thing I would say, if your reaction to that is anything like mine, you'll be slightly surprised, maybe even mildly astonished that they don't even have the data, that they're not even curious enough to have the numbers to judge the impact on the town. But nevertheless, that was the response. I didn't give up there and I wrote to the Home Office, and after many back and forths, including them claiming not to understand my question, they finally sent me the data for 2022, and then I asked for the historical data series for the last 6 years, which they sent me today. So I'm going to share that with you now, and this is hot off the press. You won't get this anywhere else. And this is an exclusive. As I show this to you now, I want you to ask yourself, is there any change in the trend? Is there any inflection point where the historical average goes in a different direction? Here's the data. Now you can see, to ask the question I just did answers itself really. In 2021, the increase on the recent historical average was over 300%. And then the next year, 2022, last year, the increase was over 450%. Look, just basing ourselves on these numbers, just based on these numbers, you have to ask, are the concerns of residents reasonable? Are they justified? Is there anything in the data that might suggest there's something to those concerns that demands a genuine response? Now, for me, it's clear that if the number of asylum seekers goes up 300 or 450% in a year, it's reasonable to ask, what is the impact of that on our infrastructure, on our town, on our housing? So a number of residents have said, well, they think there's a fairness issue here, that they're seeing asylum seekers put up in nice hotels, all expenses paid by the taxpayer, and yet their own family members are being given substandard accommodation or no accommodation at all. Other residents are concerned about the impact, for example, on our town centre. They're saying, a number of people have told me there's a particular hotel at the bottom of town that is full of asylum seekers, or nearly full, and they're concerned about the impact of that on the town centre, to which I would add, there's a new hotel being built at the top of the town centre, should be complete, I think, end of this year or maybe early next. Now, is it possible, I ask, that when it's complete, we'll end up with 2 hotels, either ends of the town centre, that are full of asylum seekers? Is that possible? And if it is possible, what's the impact of that on what is universally recognised by all the parties as to be one of the top priorities, if not the top, which is the regeneration of the town centre? What's the impact assessment of that? How do those 2 policies meet, asylum seekers and regeneration? What's the impact assessment? Now, the council can't give you the impact assessment. They can't do an impact assessment because they don't even have the data. And none of the parties are interested either. For me, there are 2 issues here. One is, you need to look at the evidence, you need to make an assessment and look at policies in the round. And for me, even more troubling than that is this silence from the parties. It's not reasonable to me that we can meet a top concern of many residents with silence, particularly when it's having a real impact on their lives, on their community, on their neighbourhood. To me, it's just another one of those issues where there's a disconnect between the parties who simply don't want to go there, don't want to step into anything controversial. And I think the only way that an issue like this can be raised in the council that it can be forced onto the agenda, into the discussion, is by having independents in the council who are willing to, bring the debate and are committed to doing so back to the ground level, to bring the council closer to the people. And then we can address these issues. We can discuss them rationally, based on evidence, with compassion for everyone involved, particularly for the asylum seekers who must be going through a really difficult time, but also for the residents who do feel quite strongly about this, and we need to acknowledge that. If an issue like this is going to be addressed at all, we need independence. So on the 4th of May, please consider to vote different, vote independent in Walcott and Park North, vote Norris. Thank you.